All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. I would like to call up the San Bernardino County's Chief Executive Officer, Leonard Hernandez, to start us off this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. We organize this press conference so that we can share useful and vital, up-to-date information with our residents. I'm joined here today by leaders representing many of the agencies that are working around the clock to get our communities through this crisis. As I introduce you to our first speaker, Board of Supervisor Chair and 3rd District Supervisor Don Rao, I'd like to thank the Chair Rao and the Board of Supervisors for their leadership and support that make the county's response to an event like this possible. We also have with us today San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes, County Fire Chief Dan Muncy, County Public Works Director Brendan Biggs, and Deputy Director of Maintenance for the California Department of Transportation District 8, Jim Rogers. We also have with us 5th District Supervisor Joe Baca Jr. Also present and representatives from the Office of Congressman Jay Obernolte and State Senator Rosalia Choabo. We thank you so much for joining us. The California Highway Patrol and Southern California Edison. At this time, I would like to introduce Board of Supervisor Chair Don Rao, whose 3rd district includes the areas hardest hit by those storms. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Good morning. I would like to start by offering that we here, our mountain communities, we understand the nature of this emergency and how it is impacting our residents. We know we have stranded residents. It is our #1 priority to get to those residents so that they can have the safe environment that we hope to provide to them. Plowing of the roads is continuing 24/7. We have thrown all of our assets at this. We've requested additional assets from our state partners and anybody who else can provide them. That is our #1 priority, is to get our residents the food, the medicine, and access that they need. Plowing is going to continue over the course of the next several days, upwards of a week, back into some of our communities. We need our residents to help take care of each other, to call our hotline that we have established that will now be 24/7, 7 days a week. I will say the number for you. If it is an emergency, risk of life is imminent, please call 911. Otherwise, I would encourage you to call 909-387-3911. Our county fire and sheriff and public works crews can deliver medicine and food to those that are still homebound. We know that roofs are starting to collapse. We have elevated this situation into a unified command with all of our emergency cooperators, and every available resource that we have at the county and the state that they can provide will be thrown at this incident to provide a level of safety for our residents. And so we hear you, we know you are concerned, and we know that this is changing with the additional snow that fell last night. So please know that we are working 24/7, our county crews, the CAO staff, our sheriff, fire, public works, everyone, we are putting everything that we have at this. We hear your pleas for help, and we will be there for you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shannon Dykes, SHANNONDICUS. I'm the Sheriff of San Bernardino County. Since the storm came in on Friday, I want to bring you up to speed on Sheriff's Department activities. We've conducted approximately 17 search and rescue operations, including areas of Big Bear, which totaled 5 of those operations, Twin Peaks for 2 of those operations, the Victor Valley area. And when we talk about this, we sound like the deserts, but it's the high altitude areas, meaning Wrightwood, the Cleghorn area, which we refer to here locally as the back way to get up to Crestline. Yucaipa Station, we're talking about Forest Falls and areas of that nature. Fontana Station, which covers Lytle Creek for 1 search and rescue operation, and our Central Station, which also covers everything south of the 138 and the Cajon Pass. A couple of those notable events were in Big Bear. A couple of off-roaders were stuck on some of the back forestry roads, and we had to use off-road vehicles that are situated with tracks to be able to go in and get them and rescue them. Also in Big Bear, we had 4 skiers go into a prohibited area on the back side of the mountain, and we conducted a large-scale operation, and we're not able to get any of those folks off the mountain until 2 a.m. in the morning here recently. In the Victor Valley area, out by 138 or the Cleghorn area that I described earlier, same thing. People are going out and looking at the snow, but as the snow starts to build, the capabilities of their vehicles are unable to continue moving forward, and they're getting stuck. And we're having to go out there and rescue them, and that's what occurred in the Cleghorn area. To give you an idea of ongoing efforts, specifically in areas of concern are the Big Bear area and Twin Peaks. We're all working together in unified command to be able to support the CHP with road closures at the 38 and at the 18. We're still continuing to try to facilitate residents getting back into their communities and making sure we check IDs, that they're the appropriate people going to and from their residences. We're facilitating a number of delivery convoys to try to get food into the local stores, and the same thing with our local gas stations. There's continuous communication with all of our local partners. To switch to the Twin Peaks area, obviously in that area we've had more than the usual snow that we see during the winter. There's continuous and patrol staffing operations going on there. We're assisting CHP and Caltrans with the clearing and the plowing of those roads, and we're coordinating again with grocery stores in that area, fuel retailers, the CHP and Caltrans, to make sure that they get their needs taken care of, and we're taking care of the law enforcement needs of those communities. You've heard that we've evacuated the summer camps here recently. I know that was a point of the news with the kids coming from Irvine. Our commanders were constantly in contact with those camp representatives until the children were taken out of the area over the weekend. Approximately 4 to 5 feet of snow came into us last night up there in those areas. And just to give you an update about what's really changed is, like Supervisor Rao said, we are seeing a number of roof damage to buildings up there. One of the local grocery stores, Goodwin's, where it's our understanding they had a roof collapse. We're in partnership with County Fire right now. As you can imagine, we receive a number of redundant calls. County Fire is well equipped with snowcats that can get us, their tracked vehicles that get us in and out of those hard to get to areas. And we partnered deputies up with County Fire so that we can check those damaged areas first and foremost and make sure that we don't have anybody that's been injured or hurt as a result of any of that damage. I've been in constant contact with state OES for the law enforcement side, and here in our Emergency Operations Center, there's been a representative from the state, and we certainly appreciate their help and support. And I'd like to introduce my partner, County Fire Chief Dan Muncy.
Thank you, Sheriff. Dan Muncy, M-U-N-S-C-Y. I'm the County Fire Chief. First, I want to thank the cooperation between the different agencies and the county departments. This cooperation is very strong and very effective, and we've been doing amazing things together. I'm not going to reiterate some of the talking points the Sheriff went over, but I'll say this. Our roads are heavily impacted. We know that our residents are in homes. We're receiving lots of calls from those residents that want assistance. That assistance has to be prioritized because the amount of resources is finite. If people have food, shelter, water, and heat, and they're in their structures that are in good condition, they're going to need to weather this storm. In San Bernardino, as beautiful it is and as beautiful as our geography is, we do need to have some level of self-sufficiency. With that said, our fire departments responded to over 96 different rescues using our fleet of snowcats, including one sheriff's deputy that got his car stuck. We're responding to medical calls, we're responding to fires in these tracked vehicles. We are going to people's houses where they've had trees through the houses or some sort of roof collapse, and we're evacuating them to our evacuation shelters. We are working closely with County Roads, Caltrans, CHP to make sure that our critical infrastructure is open to our warming centers, to get ingress and egress, to make sure that folks can get to the grocery stores that are open so that they get the needed supplies. The coordination's been tremendous. We are in unified command with the Sheriff's Department. We do have an incident command post that's been established. We're working very closely with the county to do our damage assessments, to continue to identify and prioritize our incident objectives to reach the greatest amount of people that we can. To date, have not been informed of any serious injuries or deaths. We are preventing that by being able to respond to our citizens' most immediate needs. I would like to encourage the citizens of San Bernardino, if you are in a location that is cut off, understand that help will get to you in the event of emergency. We are going to ask you to be patient, though, as long as you have food, shelter, heat, water, plenty of water around, help will arrive. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Brendan Biggs with the Department of Public Works. I'm the Director of Public Works. The County Public Works is part of a multi-agency team that coordinates each year gets a winter forecast and coordinates with all of our agency partners to develop a plan for the winter. And in front of each storm, we start monitoring the storm as it's approaching. We have meetings and we determine what kind of activation level. For this particular storm, we did have those pre-meetings. We realized that this storm was big. We started pre-staging equipment, getting fuel up to our road yards, getting chains, getting our on-call contractors in place. So we mobilized all the resources that we had available to start hitting this storm as soon as it happened. This storm is unprecedented. Our National Weather Service said that they issue out different levels of warnings. The highest is blizzard, and they've only issued that once, which is this storm. This storm covered the entire mountain range from Wrightwood all the way over to Forest Falls with this heavy amount of snow that you see. That's too much for the local resources to keep up with. So a lot of the primaries and secondaries and state highways were buried, and we're in the process of digging them out right now. Just to give you a little bit of context, the county has 500 miles of roads throughout the mountain areas that we have to plow. Caltrans is another 173. It's a lot of roads to cover that need to be dug out. When the snow is normal conditions, when it's falling, you may have a few inches where you're using these plow trucks and graders to keep up with it. Once it gets to a certain depth, it no longer can be plowed with those types of equipment. You have to do a snow removal with these loaders where you're actually digging your way out. And that's where we're at right now, is to try to dig our way out. So it's very slow going. The county roads specifically in the mountain areas, they're not like the roads down here in the valley where you have 2 lanes with curb and gutter sidewalk. You have tight, windy roads that are 1 lane. You have trees and other obstructions, structures, encroachments, utility lines that are right next to the roads that it's normally kind of slow going, and with the extra depth, it's even more slow going. So it takes a while to get back to some of those remote areas. Public Works crews are supporting the overall mission goals, so we've had to take some resources and clear helicopter pads from Lake Arrowhead Airport. We were clearing some of the roads that were to get the campers out. We also cleared a couple of parking lots for the Red Cross warming centers, and we continue to do so as the need arises. Many of the areas do have their primary roads passable, and what we mean by passable is at least 1 lane wide, less than 8 inches of snow. That's what a typical vehicle for mountain environment would be able to navigate, like a 4x4 with snow tires and chains. And that's our goal, is to try to get all the roads passable, and then we'll start working on the clearing and widening. The primary roads and the major highways are the ones that they hit first to get those vital supports for fuel and food and other essential resources up the hill. But if we can get the roads passable, we can allow emergency responders to get back to those areas and get people out to get them into those shelters. Many locations, primarily Crestline, Lake Arrowhead, and Running Springs, were hit with a little more snow. They're currently not passable in many locations. Last night we got some more snow that came in. So, but now with the storm ending, we can start hitting those and start clearing them. What we're going to try to do in normal situations, we have different road yards that take care of their own roads, where they're making passable, clear, widen. As soon as the roads get passable in one area, we're going to shift those to help supplement the areas that aren't passable, so that all of the mountain roads get passable. Then they can return and start doing the widening. So our goal is to get everything passable as fast as possible. Due to the severity of the storm, the current focus is to get those primary roads opened up, and we're primarily digging them out right now. We are reaching out to the state. We've had some meetings last night to try to get some extra resources to help supplement our crews. Just like a fire or a hurricane or something that overtaxes the local community, this one obviously overtaxes the locals, so we're bringing in outside resources. And down here in the valley, you have a lot of rental places that have a lot of equipment and stuff, but they don't have snow chains because they don't do snow plowing. Snow chains are a unique equipment device that you get some suppliers back east. We buy all ours in the summer like most people do, so we can't just go and get a local contractor with a piece of equipment because they don't have that type of equipment. So the same contractors that we're using, Caltrans is using, Edison is using, they're overtaxed too. So we're trying to bring some resources from other state agencies that deal with snow that can get the proper equipment up the hill to help dig us out. We are trying to develop some maps, which we're hoping will be out today or tomorrow, to help provide some more information to the public. We'll have our snow removal maps on there. It's a GIS layer on our County Public Works webpage, snow removal page, that the residents can see how we make progress. So as we clear or make the roads passable, they'll turn green, and then we'll show you that what our plans are in the next few days, so you can kind of see how it's progressing as it goes on. We'd like to assure the community that our We continue to work with our partnering agencies throughout this storm, adjusting priorities as needed, and we work 24/7. We have our own employees that live up there. We have a family that lives up there, friends that live up there. So we're motivated and driven to, stop at nothing to get this thing done. For more detailed information, helpful tips, frequently asked questions, we do have a lot of those on our webpage, and we'll continue to provide up-to-date information on the Public Works webpage. And there is a hotline on there, too, for the other types of emergency calls other than 911. With that, I'd like to call up California Department of Transportation Deputy Director Jim Rogers.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, good morning. I'm Jim Rogers. I'm the maintenance deputy here in District 8, and I would like to thank San Bernardino County for inviting us to be a part of this today. We are here to discuss the hard work that the field staff have been contributing to in the snow removal and storm cleanup operations since last week. Caltrans District 8 began preparation early last week, including placing de-icing agents on our state highway system, clearing storm drains, performing vehicle inspections on snow vehicles. Additional crews were brought into the mountain areas to assist these operations out of the valley. Our Riverside crews and San Bernardino Valley crews also came in. As the weather intensified, an emergency director's order was approved and initiated, and more resources were brought in through a contractor. Okay, and then District 8 has been on 24-hour shifts with staff rotating out between 12, 14, and 16-hour shifts around the clock. In collaboration with the Highway Patrol, Caltrans staff has also been able to successfully escort multiple buses of children from neighboring school districts off the mountain and getting them back home safely. Escorts were also established on State Route 18 in Lucerne Valley and San Bernardino on State Route 330 and 18 for relief for residents to get up and down the hill. Partnerships between District 8 and other agencies has occurred to ensure the delivery of essential goods such as food, gasoline, and prescription medication. These endeavors were such a success because of our amazing partners. They're all standing right here behind us. Okay. As the weather begins to change, Caltrans will continue to remove large amounts of snow from the state highway system with a goal of opening the highway to all who wish to visit the beautiful mountain communities. We want to thank the community for their patience as we move forward to achieve this goal. I want to thank again our partners for their support and efforts. And I'd like to just go off script here just a little bit. I don't know where Carolina is, but I'm going to say this anyway. I am damn proud of our crews and the Highway Patrol that has assisted us, the San Bernardino County Sheriffs. We couldn't do it without them. And our crews have been working around the clock for over a week. They're eating cup of noodles and sitting in the crew rooms for minutes to eat. And you're getting back out there and they're running the equipment and getting these roads open. So I am damn proud of them. All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much to that. I'm also going to go off script here briefly. If you do have a second home in the mountains, when our mountains do open up, please make sure that before you go up to enjoy our mountains and the snow that has been left, that you ensure that your driveways have been cleared by private providers prior to going up on the mountains. That will be our next biggest challenge. I would like to thank our animal care specialists at the DeVore Animal Shelter. DeVore received weather and it is cold up there. We currently have 114 dogs that are in heated kennels. The temperature in those kennels is 70 degrees. They are cared for around the clock and being looked after in a warm environment. And so that is an area that I just wanted to offer special thanks to. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to all of our speakers. Thank you all for being here today and for helping us get this important information out to our communities. With that, this concludes this part of the press conference, but our speakers that are here are going to be available to you for one-on-one interviews. We also have a representative from CHP, Southern California Edison, that's here in the audience as well. Thank you so much, and we now open it up. You can ask our speakers questions individually. Thank you.
What do you think the biggest threat is at this point? I know you said there have been no injuries or deaths that are reported, but what is your number one concern?
Well, we're forecasting out 10 days. We're looking ahead. We're making sure that we can stay ahead of any additional incidents that may occur. Last night, we had a couple of building collapses. That currently is a threat as the snow gets a little wetter and a little heavier. I'll let you silence your phone. We also are, working on the hypothesis that additional weather could come and create additional impacts. So agency coordination is imperative as we move forward, that we prioritize which roads need to be open. We prioritize where are our disadvantaged populations that may need assistance to ride out an extremely long storm. To date, the fire department's responded to every single 911 call. I'll reiterate what our friend from Caltrans said. Our firefighters are working extremely hard, around the clock, 24/7. They are forced to work. They are not going home. We've put extra crews up there. We've been working close coordination with the sheriff. But I'll end it with this, is that as the roads start to open, there's a lot of people that want to go visit the snow. This is the wrong time to do that. Let us clear the roadways. Let us help the people that are in need. If we have a large amount of people try to visit our mountains communities, number one, they're not going to find any place to park. Number two, they're going to find out the conditions are very extreme. Number three, they're going to hamper with our emergency cleanup and recovery efforts. I hope that answers your question.
How long out are you projecting that people should be staying away from the snow and it's going to take to get the right supplies in and the help needed?
We're going to take that day to day, but I think that at least 7 to 10 days would be reasonable unless additional weather comes in.
Just final question, are you giving people a time frame? We've spoken to a lot of folks who are living in Crestline, living in Lake Arrowhead. They've spoken to us saying they're getting concerned. What is the time frame you're telling them about how long they're going to be stuck inside their homes with the little food that is now running out?
You know, one thing that jumps in my mind is that this event is very much like an earthquake. And we always plan for the earthquake, and we advise all of our citizens, all our residents across Southern California, be prepared for long-term events. And this is that case. We know that our residents have been shut in some cases for a week. It could go on another 7 to 10 days before we're able to get those roads plowed to those residents. But to specifically give you a timetable, I'll turn it over to one of the county or Caltrans representatives that may be able to tell you without any additional snowfall how long it will take.
Right now, the clock starts ticking once the snow stops. We lost everything last night because the snow came in again. But we're going to try to keep the primary roads passable. That's our immediate need. So that'll be hopefully in the next 3 or 4 days we'll get those. But some of the more remote things could be a week or two before we can get back in there. Worst case, we are trying to bring in extra resources from the state. That'll accelerate that. But for now, they should plan for at least a week or two.
Sir, can you speak to that actually now that you mentioned state resources? I understand local resources are working around the clock. Do you think the state has adequately responded and helped you out as of now?
Yeah, absolutely. Last night, they were on a call around 7:30 last night. We had state representatives. We provided them with our needs. They got very specific as the exact type of equipment and labor that we needed, and they're working on that today. We have multiple meetings with them during the day, so they've been really good. They're reaching out to all the different Caltrans offices throughout the state, those that deal with snow and these types of things, to pull those resources in.
So you don't anticipate any challenges getting some of these resources you're saying you're reaching out to the state for?
We're very hopeful. We're very optimistic that we can pull those in. So, and we're reaching in other areas too to try to look for additional resources.
And what would be the message to those people stuck in those communities that on top of this emergency happen to have another emergency, whether a medical emergency or something that requires them to either leave, come look for help, or get attention immediately?
Yeah.
So the 911 system's still available. If there's an emergency, and we really need to look at this really as a priority. So life is going to be number one. Those type of emergencies, whether it be medications and things of that nature. And as I explained earlier, we are partnered with County Fire in track vehicles to be able to respond to those incidents. So the citizens don't have to worry about having an emergency response. We are equipped to be able to do that and certainly get them help. But once we transition, then we're going to transition, like everybody's been saying here, really to access and getting everybody in and out, resupply, long before we get to the recreation point. And I'd certainly like to put out to any member in the public, we need them to stay out of the mountains right now. This is not the time to go up there and recreate. We know the mountains are beautiful, but we're dealing with alpine conditions that are like things nobody normally sees. Same thing with hiking in our Baldy area, and all of our high altitude mountainous areas are experiencing those alpine conditions. And even if you're an experienced hiker, an experienced off-roader, the conditions out there are far beyond what your experiences are, so we're encouraging you to stay out of those areas. But we are equipped to respond to those 911 calls, and there's been no issues with the 911 system.
From the standpoint of escorting folks up there,
how many people do you think are confined to the area, and how are you going to be able to provide them with food if they run out?
If we get those type of calls, we'll certainly do that. We have a number of volunteers, and when we're giving shouts out to everybody, we have an extensive, very comprehensive search and rescue group, and we'll be sending those volunteers in for those people who absolutely need it. But of course, we're going to be evaluating that through the dispatch centers. And as far as the actual population out there, we don't really have a number on it. It's very transitory. There are a number of rental areas up there that I'm sure people went to prior to the storm coming in that are now stuck. So we're still in the middle of assessing that. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's normal populations are definitely above the hundreds. Absolutely.
from the escort standpoint, is it going to continue to be the same schedule in the morning and in the evening, or it just depends on the conditions up there as far as escorting people up there?
Yeah, that's going to be totally, it depends on access. So as Caltrans clears the road, we're going to do those priority convoy escorts, whether it's fuel, whether it's food or whatever. We're going to prioritize all those things. We actually had a great amount of success yesterday, but as Brendan Biggs explained to all of you earlier, we've lost some traction because of the snow that occurred last night. So we're starting from ground zero all over again, just waiting for the snow to stop.
Sure, before you go, and we all understand that you want people to stay away from the mountains and not time to come and have fun. Is there going to be any consequences if somebody decides to drive and take pictures or take the kids to the snow? Is there going to be tickets, or what are they facing if they do?
Absolutely. So in normal conditions, we have snow play requirements up in our mountains, and we always have parking issues and a number of things. And sheriff's deputies will be prepared to remove those folks, and in the worst cases, remove their vehicles as well. You have to remember, we're talking about clearing roads, and the way they described it is a single lane going in there. There is no place for them to park. There's absolutely nobody that has any business being up there, and we need to take care of our residents and those that are stuck on the mountains first.
Sheriff, how many additional personnel that'll be brought in?
So all of our stations, we're already on 12-hour shifts, but we basically doubled the capacity at our stations, and then we're calling in the necessary volunteers as are available and switching out search and rescue teams. But I've got access to about 2,000 highly trained people to be able to do those type of alpine rescues. But if everybody remember, they're citizens just like us, and they're especially trained, but they're out there risking their lives to go and get these people out, so we can help them by not going up to the mountains.
Thank you, Caltrans.
Do you have any feel for how many roof collapses you're looking at? I know a couple of you have mentioned them. Are we talking about a handful or a large number?
We're still in the assessment process right now. It's not uncommon when the snow's heavy that you lose decks and a few of those things. And like the fire chief said, we haven't heard about anything that has caused any injury or death to anybody. But right now, they're assembling and sending those snowcats out to do that check. Unfortunately, one of the grocery stores up in the Crestline area, Goodwin's, did have a partial collapse. There are no injuries in that, but we're still assessing all of those things, and we'll probably have a better report for you later.
Bueno, estamos aquí porque mi nombre es Marta Guzmán Hurtado y soy la vocera del condado de San Bernardino. Estamos aquí porque tenemos un incidente en las montañas donde hemos recibido nieve como no hemos visto en muchos años. Entonces, es una situación muy seria y le estamos diciendo a todos los que viven allí que estamos haciendo todo lo posible. El condado trabajando con las agencias estatales para traer los recursos que necesitamos para ayudar a las comunidades. Entonces, aquí tenemos representantes del Departamento de Transportación, del Sheriff, de Obras Públicas. Estamos trabajando todos juntos 24 horas al día para asegurarnos que podamos abrir esas carreteras, las calles, para que podamos traer recursos a las montañas, la comida, medicamentos, a las gasolina. Estamos haciendo todo lo posible. Sabemos que hemos recibido más nieve por la noche, entonces estamos otra vez comenzando de nuevo todo el trabajo que hemos hecho para aclarar las carreteras, estamos comenzando de nuevo. Entonces queremos decirle al público que tengan paciencia, sabemos que es una situación muy delicada, pero que sí estamos allí, estamos trabajando, estamos haciendo todo lo posible para traer ayuda, entonces, y no vamos a terminar hasta que podamos abrir todas las calles. Entonces, nomás queremos que nos ayuden ya que pase este clima y se abren las calles. También queremos advertir al público que ven a las montañas, ven a la nieve, quieren llevar a la familia, que no está seguro ahorita. Ahorita la prioridad es la seguridad de la gente que vive allí en las montañas y llevando esos recursos a las tiendas y medicamentos y gasolinas. Por ahorita tengan paciencia, ahorita la prioridad es la seguridad de la gente que vive allí, los trabajadores que están también arriesgando sus vidas para limpiar y asegurarse que vamos a abrir las carreteras lo más pronto posible, pero sí estamos pidiendo su paciencia y ayuda. Tenemos una línea de información, si quieren llamar, es el 909-387-3911. Otra vez le voy a dar ese número de teléfono, es el 909-387-3911. Y también tenemos recursos en nuestra página web del condado, que es snowinfo.sbcounty.gov.
¿Cuánto tiempo para que haya acceso al lugar? ¿Cuánto tiempo para enviarlo?
Eso todavía no se sabe. Desafortunadamente estamos trabajando 24 horas al día, cuando se pueda, obviamente cuando llega la nieve y la lluvia y el viento, los equipos tienen que parar por la seguridad de ellos, pero ahorita, como escuchamos, estamos esperando por lo menos 7 días hasta que puedan aclarar todas las carreteras.
¿Se han reportado lesiones, fatalidades, nada de eso?
Gracias a Dios, no se ha reportado nada de eso, como dijo el sheriff un poco antes. Marta Guzmán Hurtado, vocera del condado de San Bernardino. Gracias.
What would be the common denominator of most of those calls? What are people calling 911 for? That's your most common call.
So the question is, what's the most common call for 911? We're still responding to a great number of medical calls. That usually is needs for paramedics. That usually is our number one call. And with the mountain community trapped, they're not able to get to their doctor's office, to the emergency room. So those calls have greatly increased. Now, we have different resources up on the hill. Normally, we have our firefighters and paramedics, our ambulances, and our fire station. But we've moved hand crews, we've moved snowcat crews up into the mountains. Each of these crews have unique specialties. So our hand crews have literally been going with our responding paramedics and firefighters and clearing paths. Literally, there's some photos of 5 feet of snowbanks, and they're clearing a path to make sure that those emergency crews can get to the patient, more importantly, get the patient out. We're using the snowcats to transfer the patients to an ambulance that's waiting on a road that has been plowed, or sometimes to the hospital. We are responding to structure fires, however, that's a very small amount. We have had some roof collapse, we've had trees into houses, we've had decks collapse. That still is a small percentage to the overall calls. I'm going to take a second and I'll say this. If you have a life-saving need, call 911. We are there to support you, but if everybody calls 911 for every need, we're never going to have enough resources. So if you have a need and it's not pertaining to life, fire, rescue, imminent health, please call the hotline at area code 909-387-3911. That's 909-387-3911.
Difficult and how dangerous is it for your crews to be working under these conditions? I mean, we've never had so much snow in so many years. I know you're trained for this, but how difficult and how dangerous is it for your crews now?
Well, we always want to minimize risk and keep it as safe for our firefighters as we can. The greatest danger right now is slip and fall, especially when you're carrying a patient. We provide them with specialty equipment. We literally have tire chains that they put on their boots to make sure that they can maneuver. It's very dangerous to drive. It's been very dangerous with some of the wind conditions. We've had some damage to our vehicles, so those remain a danger. Anytime there's a structure fire in the mountains, it's always a very unique experience. When you have a structure fire where your fire hydrants are still covered with snow, where you have a heavy load on top of the roof, when you have access problems, deployment, those are always very dangerous calls as well.
Chip, really quick, you mentioned something that is true. If you don't have a life-threatening emergency, do not call 911.
That's right.
What would be the plan of action if somebody needs to be rescued or has a life-threatening emergency? What would be the protocol?
If somebody has a life-threatening emergency, we're going to respond and we're going to render aid. We are equipped, we are trained to perform in these kind of conditions. Remember, our mountains do get snow. We just generally don't have so much snow that it doesn't allow our residents to move around. So our fire engines are equipped with four-wheel drive. Our fire engines are equipped with snow chains on all 6 wheels. We have the snowcats, we have front end loaders, we have other heavy equipment, excavators, bulldozers. We have our hand crews that are there. We will make access to those patients, and we will get them off the mountain as necessary. I will mention that our Sheriff's Department has wonderful helicopters that are all-weather that can be used to evacuate patients if needed. So we are fully prepared to respond to emergencies.
Can anyone
With the
respond
county
to
declaring a
reports
state
of
of emer-
looting? We're hearing reports of looting in the past couple of days. Is that the case, what you've seen?
No, we are not hearing any high incidents of looting. And you have to remember, too, when the snow comes in and it kind of freezes everybody, even bad folks. So to the question that was asked earlier, we're really experiencing more service calls than anything else, people being stuck. A lot of people, I mentioned short-term rentals and a number of things that are occurring in our mountains. Those folks may come up not equipped, even with a snow shovel. So there's a lot of friends and neighbors up there now. Most of the help and service calls are being conducted by friends and neighbors next door, helping each other out, sharing food, and doing things that I'm always proud of our county is coming and rendering aid for each other.
I know the escorts were suspended this morning. With this new snow, are you planning on doing escorts again this evening, or has that just been put on hold for a while?
Absolutely. As soon as those roads are clear, that's going to be priority number one, because getting access in and resupply is one of the biggest things we need to be doing so the citizens that are up there can actually go to those grocery stores, fuel their cars, and take care of those things.
So folks here that are trying to get up, that couldn't get up this morning, maybe between 5 and 9 tonight, they'll be able to go up?
We're obviously hoping so, but it depends on how the weather cooperates. You know, that's that unpredictable variable we always deal with.
Sheriff, you talked about some of these supply escorts that you've done up to the mountains. Can you explain what those have been like and what the supply challenges have been up there that you guys have seen?
So the supply challenges, I'll kind of work your question backwards, is certainly access and the snow conditions, the conditions of the vehicles in terms of having chains and things to be able to get that access. But fuel has been the priority to try to get to the mountain. Food, of course, to the grocery stores and being able to take care of those things. And even yesterday, there was a pretty large convoy of UPS trucks that were carrying medications to folks that needed them on the mountain, and we were able to get them in. So it's starting that process over again today.
Gotcha. And then I know you guys are comparing this to an earthquake, and we've talked about the state. You guys say the state has been supportive, but what about the federal government? Would you like to see the federal government step in this situation like we would see with a major earthquake?
Yeah, if we certainly need those types of resources. I know from the Office of Emergency Services at the state, who would also make those calls and get FEMA involved in a number of those things, they've been highly interactive with us. I have no doubt that whatever aid we need from our federal partners and state partners will certainly come our way. Early on the law enforcement side of the Office of Emergency Services, Chief O'Keefe has called me directly, asked anything that we need at that period of time. So they are staying highly communicative with us.
When was this declared an emergency, and what resources are you seeking, extra resources?
Okay, I'll turn that over to the county.
So on Monday, as the Chief Executive Officer, I signed a state of emergency that was ratified by the Board of Supervisors at yesterday's board meeting. Currently, we are looking to assemble the board in the next while so that we can discuss resources and additional resources as this condition has continued to evolve and more snow continues to fall. As our Fire Chief, Dan Muncy, mentioned, we're looking 10 days out also. We're looking at could there be potential weather, and so we want to be as prepared as possible, and we'll bring something for the board for their consideration, who have been very supportive.
And have you heard what are the resources that you're seeking in terms of manpower and equipment?
Right now, it's going to be, well, the resources we're seeking through our Office of Emergency Services are equipment resources. As our Public Works Director, Brendan Biggs, has mentioned, they are talking about specific resources, specific crews, operators. All of those requests have been submitted. What we're looking at is, as this thing is going to be prolonged, this situation, this occurrence, that we want to make sure we have a budget set aside so we can address all those things and then seek reimbursements later.
Got it. Many of the residents, they were left out of their homes, kept from their homes from Friday through Monday, and they feel, was the emergency called too late? Should it have been put into place sooner?
Well, it's hard to say because as this snow occurrence took place, and as we were working with the National Weather Service, as I don't know if it was our sheriff or Chief Muncie mentioned, we get snow in our mountains, but to get this much snow, blizzard conditions snow across all of our mountains all at the same time. Once we realized that this was a situation that it required an emergency, we quickly acted and enacted the emergency. We have a shelter in the Redlands area, but we also have information that's being pushed through the county information. There's also the call center that was mentioned with the number that folks can call and get concise information. That's being updated. It's going to be 24/7, so people can call at any time if they need information.
And the website?
I'm going to pass over to Martha for that.
The website is snowinfo.sbcounty.gov, and the hotline is 909-387-3911, 909-387-3911.
Caltrans. Can we get your name and spelling of your name and title? Just on camera, just so I have it on tape.
Oh, sure. My name is Leonard Hernandez, Leonardhernandez, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for San Bernardino County.
I want to jump in there real quick on the proclamation. Oh, that's really important to the county moving forward. The county, the sheriff's department, the fire department are well prepared for this emergency. We had additional staffing. We had additional equipment. They were in place prior to the storm occurring. That proclamation is secondary based on the wide scale and the damage in order to get state assistance.
Question I have, can you give us some specifics on the types of equipment and how many plows you have out there? Because people are jumping on us about, well, they're not doing anything, but you guys are working 24 hours. How many plows do you have, rotaries, blowers? What can you tell me? We
have multiple blowers. We have probably 4 to 6 blowers. We brought 2. One more came in this morning from, we had up in District 9, up in Bishop area. We have our motor graders are out working. There's at least 2 graders in each snow camp across. We brought in graders from the desert and the Riverside area the last 2 days, 3 days. And so, and our plow trucks, we've been pushing with the 10-wheelers, sanding to give, traction for the emergency vehicles to get up and down. We're trying to keep our lifeline routes open. We did, like I said, went with a contractor almost immediately when the storm broke. We have, I think they have 9 big loaders that they're pushing snow and digging out. And as far as the emergency declaration, emails and contacts have been out across the state as we speak the last 2 days, asking for assistance from all the other districts to bring in equipment and personnel to help assist the county in removing snow in their areas. They, yeah, go ahead. Currently, we are working on that, and it is very deep. If you're familiar with the circle, it's very wide, and it's not only do we get a lot of snowfall in there, we get a lot of big drifts and rockfall in that same area. So it gets very, concerning for opening that up for the public, even after the storm. So we are working on that. We are currently blowing snow across the rim towards Lake Arrowhead to try to get those lifelines back open this morning.